The next step in the sample project is to make your collar. And we are only making one collar section. It's on the left side. If you had a real garment, you would have two collar sections, one on each side of the garment. I will be following the directions. And this is your collar pattern piece. Notice that there's a mark, a dot to transfer that marks the center front, and a dot that marks the shoulder seam. Also, there's a notch that will match at the collar edge. The directions tell you to apply interfacing to the left collar facing section. This is the sample. This would be the right collar facing section. We don't put any interfacing on that. Interfacing is usually put on the under collar or the collar facing section. There are some exceptions to that. Sometimes it's put on the upper collar for design reasons, if you want a stiffer collar look, or sometimes if you have a sheer fabric, it covers the seam allowances so that they don't show through. The next step, with the right sides together, so you put your two collar sections together, stitch the lower edge of the collar sections in a 3/8 inch seam. This is the lower edge. Okay, this would be the upper edge that attaches to the collar. 3/8 is used frequently in details. It's a smaller seam allowance and it wouldn't be so bulky. The next thing that you need to do is grade your seam allowances. So I hope you can see that that's graded. You grade your seam allowances, clip curves that need to be curved or possibly notch them, especially if you have thicker fabric. Then you turn it right side out and press. When you need to grade, you always grade the facing side. And remember that when you grade, you just want to get one layer and make it smaller. So you're going to be trimming all the way around. You don't want to make it too small, but you do want to trim some of that off. You also probably need to notch this corner, clip this corner, so it's not too bulky. Then, when it's all graded, then you're ready to turn it right side out. When you turn it right side out, you can use your point turner, we've used that before, to push out your corner. And the curved side is very handy for pushing out the curved areas, and it really does help to get the curved areas out. So once you get that all turned, you're going to press it. And when you press, you want to roll your seam allowance to the underside so that when you're finished with your collar, it doesn't show. And the finished collar will look like this. It's been graded and notched and clipped and pressed. And then you machine baste your raw edges together so that they don't come apart as you attach them to your collar. And the next step you want to do is pin your collar to the left neck edge, matching the centers and placing the small dots at the shoulder seam. And then you're going to baste the collar to the neck edge. And that's one of the reasons why we stay stitch this. When I finished my zipper, I sewed my shoulder seams together, bodice front and bodice back, and notice that I did a zigzag. And remember that when they say left collar, it's the side as you're wearing it. And there's a little dot right here that we're going to match right at the seam allowance. I'm going to put this right here and match it. Our notch matches up. And this is a flat collar, so we match it right to the seam allowance. And the center matches right at the center front. And I probably put one more pin here to hold it. When you get this pinned on, And if you have two collar sections, you want to make sure that they both lie very nicely and meet in the center. You will baste that down. Notice that the collar doesn't come all the way to the zipper. That is the design. Some collars will come to the edge of the seam. This one does not. And you're ready to attach your collar and move on to your facings.